3 kids, she is the one that does see how, I can't even call it socialism anymore. That's too light. How communism is really taking over this country and how this administration is definitely allowing it. So they are destroying our country, and I still can't, it's right, it's on purpose, it's in your face, it's not even, they're not even trying to be covert about it. So that's where I am. It's really sad for me to have 3 kids like this, but just the fact that my daughter kind of sees it is great, but I still can't have those conversations, and I'm sure there are people out there that have the same problem that I do. She walked away and left the mic with me. Who's not eating? Ellie! You left me with the mic.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Thank you. Are you having fun, folks? Huh? I want to hear from you. Are you having fun? Do you enjoy? Do you all remember what I remember when Eric Metaxas, were you there to hear Eric Metaxas? When he went out the door, I heard him say, Ellie, have more get-togethers. Did he say that? Have more get-togethers. These people need to get to know one another. They need to like one another. So that's why when I had the opportunity to have Bill Federer come so soon after we had just had an event, it was easy for me to say, it's not too soon. I've got my walking orders. Eric Metaxas gave them to me. Ellie, have more events. So here we are. Yes, yes. And I couldn't get along without my dear friends here, Ben. Yes, Ben, yes, Ben.
Hey guys, I'm Ben, and I'm another helper for Ellie, and I did not grow up a political person, but I went to school and had a professor that taught me economics, and when he showed me how supply and demand curves worked, and for some reason I found that interesting. But it really helped make sense of a lot of things, and we started to study things like Social Security, another really interesting topic, but things that are affected by politics that affect all of our lives in a very real way. And it was around that time when I started to pay more attention to how the governance of our country affects our lives. So I now own a business, and I'm the proud father of 3. I married my high school sweetheart, and we've got number 4 coming in February, so praise to God for that. And so I'm living the American dream and just trying to do what I can with the little time that I have to
a changed Republican Party to make that happen. As a candidate for chairman of the Vermont Republican State Committee, Jim Sexton is ready to work for that change. I actually met Jim last year in July at the Support the Police rally in Montpelier that he was organizing. It was supposed to be a very peaceful rally to show our support for the men and women who put their lives on the line every day for us. Didn't turn out that way because BLM showed up. And the event was very aggressively disrupted by a group of BLM instigators with bullhorns and tactical gear who tried to rile up the mostly middle-aged crowd and incite violence. This could have turned ugly very quickly. The only reason it didn't was Jim's measured response and robust leadership in this moment of crisis. Since then, I've been impressed with Jim's straightforward approach to politics and life. He's a family man, a devout Christian, and a passionate defender of the traditional values that have made America the envy of the world. Jim is not a glib career politician. He is a true Vermonter with a big heart, a strong backbone, and the willingness to stand up for our Constitution and our freedoms. Freedoms that we could easily lose if we keep going down the same road that we have been going down. I heard some delegates say that Jim's rival for the job has more experience in the political arena and more administrative skills, and I say, so what? Because when I was tapped last year to run for office, to run for state representative of my district, my first question was, what district am I in? Because I didn't know that. I didn't know what I was running for either. I'm like, what's the title of what I'm running for? So, and it was a steep learning curve, but I learned, and it's possible. However, I also would like to note that having been in the political arena for a very long time could also mean that you've become part of the problem. And second, experience can be gained and administrative skills can be learned or delegated. What can't be learned or delegated is conviction, bravery, patriot determination to save our state from descending into darkness. We desperately need people like Jim on every level of the Republican Party and state government. People who will stand firmly against medical tyranny, the loss of our constitutional rights, the division of our society, the destruction of our families, and the sexualization of our kids starting in kindergarten. I'm almost done. So if we vote for the same old, we will end up with a state where middle school kids receive abortions and transgender hormones with no parental consent or knowledge. That's actually what Prop 5 also does. And we will end up with a state where rates of violent crime, drug deals, and human trafficking are through the roof. There's also a bill in the making that will actually legalize prostitution in Vermont. And we will end up in a state where rich out-of-staters with second homes are the only ones who can afford to live here. It's time to stand up. It's time to make a change. It's not too late yet, but the point of no return is approaching fast. And I can't think of anyone better than Jim Sexton to lead us through those dark times into greener pastures. So if you're a delegate, please vote for Jim tomorrow. And if you're not, text or email your delegates tonight or early tomorrow morning before the election takes place. I have a list of delegates, so if you want their phone number or their email, I can give it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shadara. Are there any other messages here that need to be spoken? Anybody else want to say something? Huh? Pastor Greg. He wants to know if you've got it. He did. To get started with you?
No, we didn't pray over the meals.
Yeah, we did.
No, I missed that.
I'm sorry, but we did. He did a beautiful prayer. Yeah.
We can pray again.
Yeah. What time? What time is it? Oh, mercy. Oh, mercy. On with the show here, guys. We got to get you exactly what you came here for, to hear Bill Federer. You've had your meal? Yes, he's well-fed, and I know he's prepared to, he has a message special for us. So let's get on with that, Bill. Would you like another prayer, Bill?
Sure. And I'd like to pray for our state rep as well.
You want to come and pray with us, Greg? Greg, you have no idea what I have planned for next summer, but you'll know soon.
Who was it said before that when you get recruited by Ellie, you get recruited, right? So,
We have purpose.
yeah. So, Father, I just lift up right now, I lift Bill to you. I ask that you give him the words for us that you want to share with us. And Lord, once again, that you would just open our eyes and hearts to what you have to share. Lord, help us to use this information that we take this week, that we hear this weekend, Lord, to help us to advance your kingdom and your governmental priorities here in this state, Lord God. And help us to stir us to action. And Lord, I lift up these delegates in the room tonight, our representatives. I pray your blessing upon them as they make a stand in the State House for right laws and right legislation. I ask that you would strengthen them, that you would Lord, I pray that you would surround them with people who can lift them up in prayer and support for what they are doing and the work that they are doing in the State House. And I just pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. You bet.
Well, I guess I am on. So it's great for me to be here with you. And I want to thank Ellie. Isn't she amazing? The fact that she can organize all this and make us all feel at home and important. I do have a couple books that I wanted to say a word or two about. One is called America's God and Country. It's an encyclopedia of God and country quotes. So it has Abigail Adams, Jefferson, Lincoln, Franklin, all the quotes you could ever want in one volume. I actually had there was a Supreme Court case in 2015. It was called Greece, New York, where the city council was opening with prayer. And the ACLU sued them, and it made its way to the Supreme Court, and Justice Anthony Kennedy said, well, our Continental Congress opened with prayer, and gives the prayer, and it cites this book as the source of the prayer. It says, W. Federer, America's God and Country. So all my friends that write history books say, how did you get the Supreme Court to mention your book in the decision? And it's like, I don't know. Another book is called Change to Chains. I spent a couple years researching every civilization that has ever existed on planet Earth, all the way back to the Sumerian cuneiform on clay tablets in the Mesopotamian Valley. And every single century, I studied what type of government was in existence at that time. And so you go from Nimrods and 2,000 years of pharaohs and Nebuchadnezzar and Cyrus of Persia and Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Attila the Hun, Genghis Khan. It's kings. The most common form of government in world history is kings. And as the centuries go on, the kingdoms get bigger because with military advancements, they can kill more people. So instead of Cain killing Abel with a rock, they're killing with bronze weapons or iron weapons or big, long, phalanx spears that Alexander the Great's soldiers had, or the scimitar sword that the Muslims had, or gunpowder that the Chinese invented. The weapon improves, but it's that same fallen nature of Cain killing Abel, just magnified through technology. And clearly there's a global goal in mind. If any of these dictators hadn't died off, they'd have been happy to have the world under their thumb. And but by the time of America's founding, the King of England was the most powerful king that planet Earth had ever seen. 13 million square miles, 500 million people. Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, British Guyana, Canada, Barbados, Bermuda, Jamaica, and America. And so the King of England was a globalist. He was a one world government guy with him at the top. And America's founders decided they didn't like that, and so they broke away and flipped it, and they made the people the king. And so that's where I go through this book. So this talks about how the colonial New England pastors set up congregational forms of church government, And their communities, Roger Williams in Providence, Rhode Island, Thomas Hooker in Hartford, Connecticut, their church members said, Pastor, do a sermon on how we're supposed to set up government. And so they took their congregational church model, where everybody's involved, everybody has to pitch in and do something, and they made it their community model of government. And they called them town hall meetings. And when the British Massachusetts military governor of the British one, his name was Thomas Gage, he comes to Massachusetts to try to put down the revolution, and he says, democracy is too prevalent in America. And he shut down all the town hall meetings. He says, we don't need people meeting and passing resolutions. You just do what the government tells you to do. Right? And so the America's founders, they fought a revolution. Why? Because they wanted to flip it and make the people the king. And so there's a quote from Gouverneur Morris, one of the signers of the Constitution. He says, the magistrate is not the king, the people are the king. And Abraham Lincoln said, the people of these United States are the rightful masters of Congresses, both houses of Congress and courts. So you're the king, right? The politicians are your servants, right? We got some tremendous ones here, but they're carrying out your will. You vote them in, right, to represent you, and if they're not representing you, you vote them out, but you're in charge. And so when you realize what happened in America, it was a polarity change in the flow of power. Instead of top-down kings and pharaohs and emperors and sultans and maharajas, and it's bottom-up, we the people. And so when we pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic, we're basically pledging allegiance to us being in charge of ourselves. And so I have a book on socialism that it's not my topic for tonight, but the subtitle, it's Socialism, the Real History from Plato to the Present, because Plato was the first one that talked about everybody owning everything in common. It sounds nice until you realize somebody in the government is in the position of actually deciding who gets what. And it's a saying, he who holds the purse strings has the power. And that person that's doling stuff out likes his position. And he tends to want to give a little extra to his family and friends. And the people he doesn't like, he wants to hold back from. And before you know it, it gets discretionary. And he begins to dictate who gets what. He becomes a dictator. And so every socialist experiment where everybody owns everything in common always ends up being a dictatorship. And anyway, so as in America, I go through a little bit of history here, and I don't know if we need to turn the projector on. And let me, I guess I'll sneak over here and open the little lens, or there we go. Thank you. Well, while they're getting that going, one of the things I point out is that originally one person was the one who voted, and he was called the king. And so this is the norm for most of the world throughout history, is kings would decide, and their will was the only one that mattered. And then in America, you had Virginia, and let's see here. Who gets to vote? I think that's the one I'm looking for. And so let's look at Virginia for a moment. It's the first colony, and it was a company colony at first, and the company went bankrupt, and so the King of England sent over a royal crown governor. And the governor did not get paid by the king. And so the governor went to the burgesses. The word burgess meant neighborhood, and there were 25 burgesses in Virginia. These were the landowners, the ones that owned the big tobacco farms. The royal crown governor goes to the burgesses and says, the king's not paying me, you're going to pay me, so meet together and figure it all out. And so these burgesses would meet, and they would decide who's going to pay what. And while they were meeting, the royal crown governor said, you can talk about whatever else you want as long as I get paid. And so they would say, you know, we need to fix the potholes in the road. We need to fix the bridge. We need to defend against the Indians. And so Virginia was sort of backdoored into a legislative government because the Royal Crown governor was a little bit lazy. And anyway, but most of our history in America when it comes to voting is New England. And so in New England, they took their colonial form, their congregational form of church government, and they made it their community government. And everybody in the community got a chance to vote. Now, originally, it was just the landowners that voted, because the primary topic of what they were voting on is who's going to give up some of their wealth to support this. But then voting was extended to anybody that had some money. You had a business, you have to have a certain amount of money, maybe 50 pounds worth of English sterling or something. Because why? Because most of the voting was you giving up some of your money to support the government. And then the voting eventually went out to all men, white or black, right? And then we see that in 1920, the 19th Amendment allowed women to vote. And there was Nixon making a statement about that. In other areas, too, there were long struggles to eliminate discrimination, property, and even religious qualifications for voting persisted well into the century. Not until the 1920, were women finally granted the right to vote.